Hi everyone, welcome to the Cupping APAC meeting. Today is 19th Jan and here we are going through KPNG. Um, just a reminder that this meeting is under the CNCF Code of Conduct. Cool. So looking at the agenda, here's a quick update sort of. Um, First of all, you folks are able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll probably have to go to the SIG network meeting and just uh, add an update around what all is happening in the Cupping APAC working group. And I was thinking mostly around the CI, mostly around the CI, like, I think there have been a couple of test cases that have been fixed or some are in progress. I'm not sure about that. So maybe Neha, you can help me here. So I'll just go through what I have in mind and then you folks can add. So something around the CI, something around the IPVS stuff that Vivek and all have been working on. Sorry, that Hanuman has been working on, and there have been some IP tables enhancement that Vivek has been working on. Apart from that, Go 1.18 update. So this is sort of, and obviously like user space update, user space port. So this is sort of what I had in mind. Do you folks have anything to add? Like,
I think, yeah, this looks good, I think, but maybe you can, Hanuman, you are working on that diff state or something, Kipish, I heard some abstraction you're doing. I'm not sure if.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, there was last Sunday, there was a long meeting. I think a couple of us got together. Just to give you that update, you guys were not there. Basically, it is again a consequence of couple of test cases failing, right, in the CI, especially around session affinity and all for the IPVS. But I think for IP table, I think those test cases are passing, right, Vivek? That is not a issue, I think. But
I think session affinity, some of them are failing is what Per has told, but it's not always. It's flaking basically some of them. Yeah.
Okay. But at least in IPVS case, yeah, still the code is missing. So I was supposed to add it. So that's why they were failing. But I raised a review. In spite of that, they were failing. And then, I mean, I did analysis, I think last Saturday, Sunday. So a couple of those 6-7 test cases. So they have a test case related to switching the session affinity on and off at runtime. Basically, they create a service with session affinity on, and then they will, switch it off. So that kind of test case. So then when I saw, the kind of discussion went into somewhere else because right now we are using service events in the IPVS backend. There is something called service events, a thin layer between actually a backend code and a cupping server, which Mikhail had put together for those backends who want granular events. If that backend is granular in nature, the best example is IPVS kind of a backends, right? When I say granular, basically you can, atomically you can, insert the endpoints, and you can atomically delete them. All sort of atomic nature is supported in comparison to if you take IP table, right? That is having a altogether different nature. So service events, when me and Mikhail had discussed long back, so he had put together that layer in between. But that was not sufficient. I mean, it was not covering other scenarios like session affinity, or even going forward, there will be something like internal traffic policy, external traffic policy. So the discussion started with that on Sunday, just to give you the quick update. And that's when, Mikhail was, I mean, that discussion went on with Mikhail, Jay, and everybody. So Mikhail has put together a very generic full state diffing logic. It is not exactly what I wanted, but what he said is there is something called full state and filtered state. Just to tell you guys. So basically, whenever the cupping server gives a full state to the backends, right? How they should handle, and there is an option also called filtered state, or I mean, name might not be so proper here. It's called filter reset if you look at the code. So that will give you the atomic updates. Basically, say you add service A, B, C, right, in a sequence. So full state gives you A, B, A, B, C, like cumulative, data. That's called full state, right? So whereas filter reset, if you see, it will give you A, B, C in that. If you create A, it will give you A. If you create service B, it will give you service B. So like that, that's a filter reset. So Mikhail, whatever he has done last 2-3 days under the context of this discussion, and as a part of the discussion, right? So he has put a diff logic for the full state kind of backend. So at least that's what I understand from his code. But the discussion I started was more for an atomic calls. So still, you guys hold on. Don't get confused. Where is that going? So I am also parallelly working on enhancing the service events. At least, Mikhail is here. Hey, Mikhail. So I'm just telling them. So that's the activity which is going on. And Neha, just to quickly answer you, as a part of that code changes, right, which Mikhail had raised 2 days back, wherein he provided a very generic diffing logic for the full state kind of backends. He used generics, basically. So generics are very recently introduced in Golang. And it is used in, I mean, it has come out as a part of 1.18 beta and very latest build of Go, and that's what Mikhail has used, and which made us upgrade to 1.18. That's the context.
Okay.
Yeah, our Mikhail is here. Yeah.
Hi, Mikhail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Mikhail.
So we are using this full state based logic and building that diff state, and we will reuse that in IP tables also.
Right now, Mikhail is there. So he has done it for NFT.
Yeah.
Maybe Vivek can answer. Probably he hasn't gone through. Maybe Vivek, you can say about it.
Right now, we are using that filter reset in the IP table. So, I mean, earlier I was looking at service events for that atomic changes, but then like Lars in the last meeting was saying that, I mean, there are some issues with that. So right now I am not proceeding in that direction. So right now, I think the other one, how it is in Kube-Proxy, but only thing is it won't be a full state, but the event based using filter reset. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Just before we go ahead, I forgot that we've got Ashraf here. So I mean, since this is his first meeting, I mean, feel free to introduce yourself. Like.
Thank you, Raj. I will do. So shall I present myself?
Sure.
Yeah. So, hey, my name is Ashraf. I'm a senior DevOps engineer at Simplest Technology, and I'm interested at Kubernetes, and I wanna help you guys and learn from it. I want to learn how to do it. I'm not very proficient. This is my first open source project, and I hope I'll be helpful.
Cool. Nice to have you here. So this is the Kube-Proxy next generation sort of a working group, and this is the APAC friendly meeting. What we're trying to do over here is sort of redesign Kube-Proxy and decouple it from the current logic that it has. So feel free to say hi to us on the Slack channel. We are SIG network KPNG on Kubernetes Slack, and you'll find some resources on what we are doing here. Cool. So Hanuman, thanks for that sort of overview around full state, and I was kind of going through it. So the way I understand it is, Mikhail, Hanuman, just correct me if I'm wrong. So full state sort of backend that's like only as of now that's NFT. So it kind of gets all the events from Kubernetes, and then the backend will read sort of a diff and then write NFT rules depending on that diff, right? Like in layman's terms, like this is how I'm picturing it. Because for IP tables, what we've been doing is like use the sync function, and through the set service, delete service function, kind of update the service change tracker data structure, things like that, and then write IP tables rules. So full state kind of gives another type of a backend, right? Like
it's another way to do it.
Got it.
And it's less event-based. It's actually really taking the whole state of a known world for the node, and then produces all the objects you want for your backend. And then you will have a diff for every object, but of your subsystem, not of. So you're not trying to propagate the events like set service or set endpoint or add IP port. You're not trying to propagate that to changes to your subsystem. You actually compute the whole state of your subsystem again. And from there, you know exactly what you need to do to sync your subsystem with a new wanted state of this subsystem.
Got it. And this example around the user space example, wherein the client itself uses something like add IP port and things like that. This is more of an a granular event based, because the cupping client is sort of sending the events to the backend, right? So this
yes,
is
but
another way.
It's still computing a diff of the capping state, not of a subsystem state. So I think it's harder to sync events from a generic system or for something that's not your subsystem to your subsystem than to just compute the whole state of your subsystem and then know what to change in your subsystem.
Got it. So the entire subsystem changes are what are done in NFT as of now. So
Yeah.
are we trying to move IP tables implementation towards NFT?
No, I think I've disrupted enough people with that. It's already confusing enough. It's more like NFT is a demonstration for that.
Got it. Cool.
But how would you map that to IP tables, for instance, is that you'd have one diff store for your chains and one diff store for your IP sets, for instance. And when you get a new state, you're just going to recompute all of that, and you will have the diff you need to apply. So which tables have been impacted by the change, and which IP sets have been impacted by the changes in the state, in the capping state. But you do not need to think about, okay, it's an update to a service, or it's a new IP port, so I need to get in this chain and add these rules. you don't think like that when you use the diff store. You really just say, okay, I'm just going to write everything I want, and it's going to give me what has changed.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, Mikhail, actually, like, if you remember, like until last week, until we had the discussion with Lars, I was trying to do that instead of going through all the rules and then pushing, just get the changes and just add the IP table rules just for that. So in that case, I think
Yes.
That new event-based service event-based change was what I was using, and it was actually working. I mean, I didn't complete the code, but I did for service and endpoints, etc. But still, it was like about 80% done. But then, like Lars was
Yes.
saying, it would not be useful, right? I mean, because he says like when you do even say, for example, you just add IP tables -a and add a rule, basically the kernel actually does pull everything up and then insert this rule and then push it, which seems to be more less performant than
faster.
when the user space does it.
It's faster to update all your chains. I think it's because when you add something, IP tables takes the chain and then does kind of have to rebuild the chain code. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like it's because of the changes to NFT and those BPF-based things, that you actually have to get all your chains to compile them to the new NF table or BPF rules. I'm not sure what's going on behind, but I think that's why you need to get the whole thing, do the change, compile it back, and send it. So it's true that if you actually have the whole thing to replace, you don't need to get it from the kernel before compiling it and sending it. So maybe that's why it does have a performance impact.
Yeah, so I mean, right now I'm not going in that direction. I've just stopped it there, and maybe I'm just trying to use the IP set there. So maybe that's it.
So there are no IP sets in Kube-Proxy for now, right?
Yeah,
In
it's
the
not
IP
there for
tables,
IP tables
yeah.
at least. Yeah.
Yes, for IP tables, of course. So in legacy Kube-Proxy, I mean. So maybe you can use the diff store just for your IP sets. That would be working.
Yep.
Mikhail and Vivek, Mikhail, you have any idea whether IPVS has a similar limitations or drawbacks? I mean, say in IP table, yes, as when Lars enlightened us that okay, it is not efficient to just push the delta. Rather, you read the full thing from kernel and just add what you are right now modifying and push it so that it is more efficiently done in user space than kernel. So similar situation, does it exist in IPVS? From your experience, have you come across?
I don't know what the client does in the background. I would assume that map will have a put method and a delete method, but maybe it's still more syscalls to do that than to just replace the IP set. It probably depends on the size, I'd say.
No, I was not talking of IP set. Like we have that IPVS ADM -ln, that table is there, right? So that it supports atomicity.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's what
I don't know. I don't know. IPVS, I really don't know correctly.
Okay.
I think in the kernel they can optimize a lot more because it's much closer to what we want to express, but I have no certainty on the technical side here.
Okay. Because as Vivek said, he has stopped working in that direction, right? So, but if you see from earlier, we are working on the very atomic calls to the IPVS. So, but if you see the Kube-Proxy, it is very similar to the IP table, so every time they rebuild the whole IP table content and keep pushing. I don't know whether it is because they ported the code of IP table and simply reused a lot of code and just did IPVS. Maybe that's.
I think there's a lot of cut and paste because of an architecture of the legacy Kube-Proxy, kind of.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, maybe I'll just continue. Maybe when we start measuring the performance or something, maybe we can look at it. I mean,
yes, I think we should avoid to try premature optimization.
Sure, yeah.
So Hanuman, I mean, you mentioned some session affinity also bugs in that IPVS. So you are fixing those bugs, or I mean, what's the plan for like getting those fixed?
No, it's not about bug. So currently CI, if you see for IPVS, a couple of session affinity test cases are failing. One reason was the code itself was not there. So that's why I raised one code review, to add and delete the session affinity for service IPs. In spite of that, when I saw some more test cases are failing, that is, there are two types of test cases which are failing in spite of my code being there. One is they are dynamically switching on, switching off the session affinity, right? So that code also is not at there. So that's what I have to add. Second is related to timeout actually. So you have this session affinity for a certain amount of time, right? So that will expire. So looks like with IPVS, it is not stable. I mean, maybe Mikhail might know. And even when I saw Mikhail, right, E2E test cases, they have mentioned certain bugs in IPVS about timeouts being buggy actually. So these are the reasons they are still failing, which we may have to, analyze further, like why those test cases are failing actually. So I will be analyzing them in coming days after I add all these scenarios, like, dynamically switching on, switching off session affinity, and all those cases. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a pretty good demonstration of how hard it can be to propagate changes.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that's about a couple of IPVS test cases I analyzed, Neha. But still, there are other category of test cases also, non session affinity related and non-traffic policy related, which we have to look. I have to analyze actually. Out of 280, 85 or something, 15 are failing totally.
Okay. Yeah, because we will like plan for looking at that maybe because IP tables are mostly done. I think only very few are left.
Right.
I somehow feel some of the test cases are, I mean, I don't know why it is not failing because we don't have contract and ready state still in there. Still,
Correct.
I'm not seeing any failures for ready state. Yeah. At least I think contract I saw few, but ready states I'm not seeing anything getting failed. So that I'm
I also have the same. I also have the same doubt because I was seeing contract failures but this week or maybe I'm not seeing those failures. I am not sure on that. And ready states a couple of weeks only we are not seeing that failure. I seeing. So that is we need to check why it is not. You tried locally also running this test? I will try that maybe. But
no, the code itself is not there. So even if there is a test case, it should fail.
It should fail.
There is no doubt about that.
Okay. Okay.
Vivek, do you remember roughly how many test cases are there in contract? Like whether they have good coverage? I mean, even though code is not there, they are passing. Means it's a mystery, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least when I saw last when Per told contract, I had seen few failing. But I mean, Neha is saying now it seems it's not failing, but I don't know why. Yeah, but ready state there wasn't even a single one that I could see.
Ready state, like you imagine I opened first issue, so it was on ready states only. and and after some time we are not seeing that error issue. Not sure.
Oh yeah, you raised the issue because from the test case only, right?
Test
Okay,
case only.
and
Yeah,
now
it
that
was my
is
first
passing.
issue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not sure. Need to check on
that's
that.
magic.
Because I also want to understand, like, you means we updated that proto buff, right, from to Google something. I don't remember. After that, I mean,
Yeah,
just posted like there are only 6 failures out of some 30 or 40 or 50. So like, what happened in that change? Or
yeah, but
I
at
mean,
least these won't pass by itself. Yeah. Like there were many cases which were failing because like in between the KPNG cluster itself goes down because of that protobuf. So that's why many of them passed. So
okay.
many of them
Because
are valid, but yeah, still I think few more should be there which should fail.
yeah, because me and Anusha are also working on one of the issue, multi-port issue. So we are stuck, means there is definitely a code change for that in endpoints map. I mean, the way we are using endpoints map in cupping is different than what it is in proxy,
Yeah.
because we don't see that map definition correct in the cupping.
Okay,
So
before making that change, can you please tell me about the issue as well as maybe not here,
maybe
maybe
I'll
offline also.
sync with you after this meeting, because Jay seems that the issue might be in that cupping server model. So I need to understand that with you or yeah, anyone who, maybe I'll connect with you after this meeting on that issue as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to know if you're okay with this list of things from the APAC working group, telling SIG network around that, like the work that we do. I mean, whatever we've been doing around CI, IP, VS, IP tables, things of that sort. So if does this look okay to you folks, like Hanuman, Vivek, Neha?
Yeah, I think it looks
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Do you all want to continue around the IPVS, IP tables test failures, or should we move on to hacking around Go 1.18?
Yeah.
I think we can move on. Yeah.
Sure. Neha, like, do you want to share your screen or how you
yeah,
want to
before sharing screen, I think Mikkel is already here. So we see the changes for beta are already there in Kapik. Means I have seen that PR merged, and we see 1.18 beta changes in the Kapik. So Mikkel, I mean, should we go with 1.8, but it's not available also?
First
1.8.
beta 1. I updated the Docker file, and there's the beta 1 that's available. And it wasn't too hard to install, at least for me. So yes, I would say let's go. I asked if I should postpone a bit, but Jay was like, "No, let's go." So it was okay. Second validation, let's go.
Yeah, because I mean, we will need to download that also, right? But it's not available, no?
It is.
I mean,
You have it on
It is
the
available.
download. Yeah.
it is okay.
Yes, and you can actually do a go install something, go beta, and it will build the Go program to update your Go installation, or to download the Go in your home, to be more precise. Yeah. But it wasn't very hard. I just had to run that and just update my path to the new Go 1.18 beta.
Okay.
Yeah, I just pasted Neha. You can use this chat.
Okay, beta is there. I mean, beta is there. I was saying only 1.18, I think.
No, yeah, beta 1.
Well, if I just want to open golong.org, it's
Okay. Let me do this. Let me install this beta 1.
Yeah, beta 1 is where you have generics, Neha. So that's
Okay.
what Mikhail has used
Mhm.
2 days back. Yeah.
With generics, I could finally do it.
Yeah, right, Mikhail. Yeah. Right.
But I see the code changes are already there. I mean, what other changes will need?
Yes.
I'm not sure for that because in Docker file I see the changes are there, and in go.mod also. Because yeah, means the only change I think is in now GitHub action file. That's it, because other changes are already there.
Yep.
Yep, I think we only have to update the CI, and I think we have,
Yeah,
so-
CI file I'll update, and
It's why I only updated the Docker file. But,
mhm.
yeah, the Docker file also has been updated, right?
Yeah, yes. So only thing is we'll have to update our local Go version and try and test this, right? Build once.
yes.
Mhm.
Mikhail, I think you worked Sunday night, I believe, right? Sunday night we had a meeting. I think you didn't sleep whole night. You did this change.
No, sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm still yet.
I'm trying to fit capping in the schedule. It's a bit
Yeah.
chaotic.
I'm still yet to catch up on the the code base around div store and Golang generics. So yeah,
You want to do that now?
sure. Like, I don't mind. We have some time.
Yeah, so it's in client, most important thing. Client div store 2. And there you want to start at div store test. I think that's or any leaf test, maybe it's both are quite easy. So I try to always put example tests. So the first one. So it's easy to match the output with the code, and it gives a pretty straightforward example.
Okay.
So the ID, go up.
This is the test you want me to look at, right?
Yes. You just have to go up if you want to see the code. So the generic part here is between brackets, the string with new buffer store. So the buffer store is one helper function to build a store that will contain a bytes buffer that you can use. So every leaf of a store, the thing that you get with store.get, is going to be a bytes buffer. So you can just use your regular writer functions like fprint, fprintf.
Oh,
So
nice.
you write all the things you want, and then you call done. When you call done, you get the diff from the previous state, and it allows you to print it. So there's the private print diff function that's just responsible for doing the output we are matching below. So for the first round of the store, I just get A and print LOA inside this leaf, this entry, if you prefer. So it means that after done and print diff, I should see that I've created A with the content LOA.
Okay.
So that's what we see in the output, just a line below. Yeah. Then I do another cycle that I simulate have no changes. So I generate exactly the same thing. So I call reset to say, okay, I'm going to write a new set of data. And this new set of data will be the same as before because it's get A and I write hello A and call done and printf. And so here I should see that there have been no changes since the previous state. So that's why it's printing same. Then I do a third event, let's call it an event, where I get a new thing that's B and I write LOB in, and I still have my A with LOA inside. So all I see is the div that I've created B, but A is still the same. Then I get another event that's kind of torturing the store, where I have two actions where B is removed and A is updated to IA instead of hello A. So that's what you see in the diff, and so on.
Oh, got it. Got it. So this is basically how. So this would require, for like I'm thinking in terms of NFT backend, like wherein it would require the entire
let's go inside it. Just go in NFT and chain buffers. It's NF table now, so it's been renamed. So that's a representation of one NF table that's taking advantage of the store.
Got it.
So to build a store, I just have a familiar name, the chains inside it, and the maps inside it. So your IP table chains and your IP sets, it's kind of the same ID. And then I've just put some helper functions to call the interface and both stores when I want to call it on the NF table. That's really just that.
Right.
And kind store is just helper functions to say, okay, the store maps will be for the NF table kind of object kind map, and chains for the chain object in NFT. So it's really NFT objects that I'm representing here, and I'm representing them just as the code I need to define them in NFT.
Got it. So
really simple. So if you want to see how it's used, just go to nft.go. It's a bit bigger, but not an NFT, but NFT this time. Yes, right. Yeah. It's okay. Just didn't see the mouse move. So what happens in the callback? It's just that I'm initializing, and I want to be sure that I will be calling the reset on every table, the table for V6 and V4. At the end of the callback, so it's clearing the store at the end, clearing the state, and then it's I think not that hard to understand. I just go through every service, and every service will have its own chain and its own maps. Every endpoint will be in a map. And I'm basically just using, right, for instance, if you see for every endpoint IP, I just add them to the map. So I just get my line 198. Just before just computing the IPs that I want. It's all. That's all it's doing, and then it's really working on the NF table, which should be renamed.
You never map up the port as well. Hey, Michael, it's fair.
Yeah. Sorry, what was a question?
It's like you don't map up the combination, basically cross product address and ports.
No, because I have a dispatch after that.
Okay, that's for the multi-port stuff.
Oh, for multiport, yeah. It's multiport came after I did all those things initially.
Yeah,
So.
it wreaked a little bit of havoc.
Yeah. So what I do is for the endpoint map, I just write the map elements. So what you can see at line 202 is that just the definition of the map with IP family, destination address, and then the elements. There's this defer thing on store items that allows you to call things at the end of your rendering when you call run deferred. And then I just write the entries of the map.
Got it. So this is basically iterating through this channel and then of service endpoints, getting the service endpoint, and then
The channel
right.
contains the whole state, so I just write all the definitions I need
In the diff
based
from
on
the
the
diff.
state.
Got it.
Yeah. So at the end of all this, that's a bit more technical, with some bug handling and things like that. You can still scroll down because you need to get after the loop. I just run the deferred rendering, so it's just going to basically close all the maps with a curly bracket. And then I create the dispatch chains, post-routing chains, and then I say I'm done. And when I'm done, I just go to NFT and write all the updates that I need to write. So that's what you can see in the render NF table, lin 374. Yes, under your mouse. So this one is going to write to NFT, so to the pipe, the updates that has to be sent. So if you go to this function under NF tables, which is below if you want, but I think you can click. Yeah, so this is where we use the diff store. So there's a little trick in NF tables because I may want to have a full resync if there's an update issue somewhere. But the nominal case is not full resync, so just ignore that. And this is where I use the diff. So the first thing I do is empty everything that's been deleted. So that's what you see, line 532. Yeah. So it goes through the deleted items and just flush them. So every reference is cleared. Then for everything that's been changed, I also flush them because they are going to be rewritten. And yeah, and then I take all the changes and just dump the definition of everything that's been changed. Every table, every map, every chain, every map. And that's it.
Yeah, got it. This looks like, at least from the flow, it looks pretty neat as compared to like the user space port. But yeah, I think there'll be
for the user space port, for instance, you would have a diff store, but not of buffers, but of probably a listener, a leaf with a listener and something like that. And you just see which listeners have been deleted, and then you can just call clues to the listeners, and everything that's been changed will either have nothing to do, or if you have been created, you need to start them.
Right.
It can be something like that. So now that we are over the example, which I can go back to the div star clients. And just maybe go through the API itself, the API. So let's get to, yes, div star, I think it's pretty good way to start. So that's the generic one. So you have a key that must be ordered, and you have a leaf that must fulfill the leaf interface that's on line 9, yes. So you want a function to reset the leaf content, and another one to get the hash of the leaf content. The hash can be treated to be just an integer you increment. Well, things can be done like that. And then it's using the B tree to implement the functions, but get item is going to give you an item. So the item is a key and the value, and allows you to add those defer functions we've seen just before.
Right.
And if you're just interested in the leaf, there's a shortcut function that's called get, and it gives you the leaf directly, not the item. It's just basically giving the value, calling get item and returning its value, not the key. Run deferred is just a way to run deferred on every item of a tree. Done is what I said. It's going to compute the hashes of every node that has been touched. List is going to give you everything that has been touched in your current run. So it's the whole data set, regardless of if it's been updated or not. Deleted is going to give you what has been removed. And changed is going to give you only the items that have been changed.
Got it. So basically, it boils down to the B tree data structure, and you try and calculate the hash and checking if it's touched or not.
I use the B tree, and then I add my own logic of diffing objects.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think this puts things into perspective, like how it internally works.
Yes, it's not supposed to be very complex. The reset may be just handling a lot of internal state to make sure that things that have been deleted are marked, are removed, things that were, and just put every item in the tree in a state where it says, okay, I have been deleted. It's kind of that.
Right.
That's just
Nikhil, what would be the optimal size of a node? I mean, because we are doing the hash on the node, so what would be the maximum size for it to work optimally?
Whatever you need. If your changes are big, it's probably harder for the system to handle that after, but I don't think it does have any impact on that. Because you still have to hash the whole thing you wrote. So
okay, I was just thinking because say you have a big string there somewhere, and then when you have to calculate a hash on that, that might be little bit slower than if you have a smaller length data. So I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking,
yes, but
is there an upper limit to that or something?
If you divide by 2, you're just going to have to hash twice as much too.
Exactly. So the hashing is really quick, right? As long as the stuff is in memory, which I assume. I mean, nothing. I mean.
And I'm using XXH, which is hashing like 10 gigs a second or something like that.
I think what we really need to be afraid of at some point, and it's not the code, it's more like a sudden comment. When we get, like when you run with 100,000 services and 100,000 endpoints, right, that the whole way that all information known everywhere will not sort of really work well. We need to have another scheme then that you don't have to know about all the service to endpoints resolutions everywhere. You need to know the connections that's set up, but the resolution to find the right endpoint for you, maybe that should be distributed and so on. But that's, I think those problems are still years ahead of us.
But that's your work, Per, to
I mean,
handle this case.
and it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. I mean, you just divide the service addresses and say this part of the address set for services is served by these servers, and so on. So it should be quite simple to do. But no, I like what you've done.
I agree. But
and I'm really
still waiting for your code.
And I'm really happy to see constraints in code. It's so nice. like
I think this talk can be helpful for you.
Yeah, but if you haven't, then maybe a little later we can talk about the multi-port. So we have some problems there, right? After
I think using DivStore is going to give at least things that are much easier to change and to adapt to those changes.
Yeah, there's. I mean, we see there's. I mean, every release they're changing something. I mean, internal policy, external policy, and all these things that will, of course, then map on what you think the set of endpoints is for this internal. So yeah. So you put this code together in one day, or you had it in the can and just took it out?
No. Just it's maybe it's half a day.
Wow, you're quick.
Yeah, that's one of my things. That's why I have to be careful with people. It happened to me too many times. Like I always remember a time when I was working for a customer 3 days a week, so I was there only 2 days at the office. And when I came back in the morning, and a developer was asking me like, I have this problem. Do you know what it can be? And I was just like saying hello to everybody and came to him just, yeah, I think it's there, and you just change that, and that's good. And then I continued to the next one, and then his project manager told you, oh, you've been a bit rude with him. He's been struggling with that for 3 days. Like, sorry.
Well, not a bad skill to have.
I just try to be a bit careful with that.
Yeah, but
it's not very important how much time it took me.
This looks great, and thanks for like walking around like the entire code base of DivStore. Thanks for that.
We haven't done the whole thing, but just have a look at a leaf, for instance, buffer leaf, which is quite easy, or JSON leaf if you want to change. So you can see how to implement your own leaves if you need them. So that's the helper that's built in the store, and then there's the data structure of the leaf. It does have get and set as methods, so you can just get the value and set the value. Reset is just putting the empty value in value, and the hash is just using JSON to do the hash. So as long as you have an object that can be represented as JSON, it's probably the simplest thing to use to have a tree of whatever you need.
It serializes first to JSON and then hash it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, those 2 lines of code are exactly what you said.
Yeah,
JSON Marshall and then hash.
Always. That people use so many do wrong when they hash something. They don't think about the padding, and then you turn on debug and put debug patterns in the non-use spaces of the structs, and people hash and things don't work.
You need the same hashing somewhere, so that's why it's good to have the hashing in the leaf. So you think about it once, and there's no.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, I haven't checked XS hash. I assume that it's a really good hash that changed a lot for just a small change, right?
XS hash is really fast. It's just not. It's not crypto safe. If you want, I think the fastest hash that's crypto safe today is number 3.
No,
But XXH is the fastest hash.
A good spread, speed and spread.
Yes, it's safe on the spread. It's just that it can be. I think there are some collisions that are a bit too easy to get for security purposes, but this is not our problem here.
Not passwords.
Yeah.
Cool. It looks really good.
So that's why it was fast to do. It was not a lot to do.
I have it up. I said I was going to look at it because I like the idea with the write done and be able to transfer that. I'm just looking at it with another type of problem, probably a different solution. You know, when you have well, active and replicas, and you want to get the changes over to the replicas that are on different machines, sort of different ways of doing that. This is, of course, one way, but serialize and then replay it on the other side.
Yes, that's useful for that. Well, that's actually what caping is doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's beautiful. I mean, I've done it. I mean, I don't really like the cache DB. I mean the old C caching function there. And I've done so many functions myself. When you end up, you know, do relative pointers and bases, and then just send those blocks around. But that's just in C++. This is great. And
there's the last thing in item.go, which is something where you get when you get item. This is handling the B-tree things. You can get the key and the value with public functions, of course. And you have change, created, updated, deleted functions that are allowing you to know the state of the item. Everything there is quite trivial. And there's the defer thing that just adding to the deferred functions something that can be run. And when you run defer, when you call run defer, it's just going through this this array of functions and call them, and then say, okay, it's empty. So that's it, quite easy.
Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty neat. I mean, I think we can add some README around this and you know, like add some documentation.
Yes, and the first thing, you already have some documentation because there are example functions. For AnyLeaf, for instance, it's just what I've shown to
around this.
Have you? I mean, not for you, Michael. Have you guys used like C++ templates or something like that? I mean, sometimes when generics can get you scratch your head. Sometimes there's so much auto conversions going on.
It was 20 years ago. 20 years.
I was like, it's, no, you. Yeah, of course, I did ask you. That's obvious.
But yeah, but it's slow to compile.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, first it's going to have to do the static generation of code and then compile the code.
Yeah.
Way better.
So in AnyLeaf test, you have another example function if you want to have a look at it. But,
sorry, I didn't get that.
AnyLeaf of a sequence file. That's where I've shown. I actually had it for J, the example as example AnyLeaf store file-like, which is just like, let's pretend we are reading a file and just putting every line in the store to compute the diff.
Okay.
So that's another way to have a look at it. So all those things should be in the Godot automatically, since these are example functions.
Right. Yeah, I think I'll basically take that action item on me and then add some README around this. So
yes, feel free. I'm not very good at writing README files because of what I've said before.
Read the code.
Yeah.
well, thanks for getting this done. I think we have 5 minutes ahead of time, so I think
Quick questions around the multi-port. So what I saw, right, the endpoint contains the ports, right? So when there's a new endpoint coming in, look at all ports that's in there and add them to the correct address port pair, and then when removing an endpoint, do the same thing.
Do the multi-port are, I mean, they are not like port ranges?
No, not port range. That's even worse, right? Or that's the same
Yeah,
thing.
that's
But
right.
when you have TCP port 14 or maybe UDP port 82. I mean, basically when you have many ports specified in the service, and then because a port range maps to the same pod. So if you specify a port range, so that's one port definition, right? Then any pod that supports that needs to have all the port ranges, whereas the different specified can be that deployment 1 maps to port specification 1, deployment 2 maps to port specification 2, and deployment 3 maps to both. And they're all mapped to the service, right? So all pods do not cover all the ports from the service. Yes, exactly.
Who does that?
Well, I've seen some case. I actually can think of some real cases, but I mean, the test does it. The end-to-end port does it. Yeah. So I was put like this. I was really surprised when I read the test. It's like, who does this? And then sort of, okay, that's how it's specified. But that's what I don't think Kaping does handle right now. We can push this to, I mean, I can send you the link to the test and you can look at it and we can discuss on Friday instead of doing it now, or I mean, or next week.
Yes, we can do that.
And there is an issue for it, of course, but I think it requires some thought. If you look at it from a pure load balancers perspective, it's fine, right? Because it's going to be I mean, you have the, whatever you want to call it, tri-tuple port, I mean, proto port and address, or 4-tuple if you include the address type. That is the front for the load balancer, right? And then you're going to select the endpoint. So you already have the different, you already need the different sort of front matches. And then it's just that the lists of endpoints can be different depending on which port it is. Okay. I'll send you the. I'm a bit surprised.
So yeah, there's
yeah. All right, I'll send you that. Well, I'll just link you into where it is. Oh shoot.
Yep. Okay. So we'll have a look at that later.
Yeah. Cool. Hanmant or Vivek, you folks have anything else to discuss?
No, I guess that's it.
Nothing much, yeah.
Cool. So I think we are at the end of the meeting, and thanks everyone for joining. See you all.
Yes,
yeah.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.